Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Tees Valley Sport Podcast. This episode was actually recorded quite a while ago. It was recorded a couple of months back now during lockdown, and it was something that I wanted to release kind of straight away, but then looking at the calendar we noticed that it was Mental Health Awareness Week this week. So we've pushed this episode back to kind of line up with Mental Health Awareness Week. It's recorded with Matt Williams, whose journey with mental health and journey with his job and his personal life is just incredible, and he does some great work around mental health. He's a mental health advocate. He's really interesting chat we have. It was something that I've never spoken on this kind of channel about or in this depth with someone, so it was interesting for me to learn a little bit more about him and a little bit more about his challenges, his work, his visions. So I hope you enjoy the episode. We are hoping to do at least one more episode around mental health to tie in again around the Mental Health Awareness Week. I think it's a topic that people sometimes are a bit frightened to talk about, a little bit frightened to listen about. And it's something that I really feel needs to be talked about more. And hopefully that people listen to the episode or watch the episode this week will enjoy the episode. Please do provide some feedback. It's something, as I said, that I've never dealt with before from this type of a scenario, of a setting, and I hope people do enjoy it. And as I say, feedback we really appreciated. So enjoy the episode and thanks for watching or listening. Hi Matt, thanks for joining us. Could you just introduce yourself quickly to the listeners, please?
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Williams. I wear lots of different hats really. Within sport at the moment, I'm a director of Billingham Boxing Club, and I have a big passion for mental health and kind of campaigning and advocating for better mental health.
Perfect. So thanks for jumping on the podcast today. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about mental health, which at the minute, with everything going on with COVID and with lockdowns, it's something that I know from my discussions that's something that's at the periphery of a lot of people's kind of focus at the minute. So obviously, I'm going to just ask you, we've got a few questions to run through, a little bit of background on yourself, bit of your thoughts on mental health, and we'll hopefully get some really good conversation going.
Okay.
Let's start with, Matt, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement with sport and physical activity over the years, please?
Yeah, so I was in my day, many years ago, I used to play out a lot and kick around and try lots of different sports really, and I was always an active kid, and then turned out to be a pretty decent runner. So I ran for the local athletics club for a number of years until my early 20s, and then I got arthritis in my foot, so I had to pack that in. But it led me into my career. Sport had done a lot for me, so I studied sport at Teesside University, sports science. Like, I was only the second graduating class when there was just the one sports science degree, and then I was fortunate enough to be able to develop a career in sport, and well, not just in sport. I worked on health projects down in London for a while, worked in gyms, did some lecturing in colleges, but then got into sports development, and I've worked for a local authority, County Sports Partnership, Sports Coach UK, on UK Coaching now, national governing body. So kind of, I'm at that point in my life where I've been around the block a bit, really. I don't work in sport as a career now, but I'm still involved in terms of tutoring and delivering training and particularly around mental health in sport. And I'm involved in a local boxing club as a director, so I'll always be involved in some way or another. Awesome.
So a real massive mixed bag of your sport, because activity, you've loads of involvement, loads of great example experiences really, I guess.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. Yeah, got to see it from lots of different interesting angles.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, moving on to the mental health side of things, how do you think that sport and physical activity can have a real positive impact on improved mental health? And from your personal experiences, have you seen any kind of benefits through any work in the sector?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways. I mean, one of the models of frameworks that exists is this thing about the 5 ways to well-being, as five simple ways that we can, if we do these things each day, we'll have better mental mental well-being, and sport lends itself very well to meeting those. So the 5 are about connecting with people. Again, the sport is boxing. You know, one of the big things is a sense of community within a boxing gym is just fantastic, and that sense of belonging to something bigger than you. So sport has a really important role to play in that, and again, clubs can really be at the heart of their communities. Giving is another one, and obviously sport is very much dependent on the many countless hours that volunteers dedicate to it. So sport has a real role to play there, and how volunteering sport can be good for our well-being. Taking notice, or mindfulness, and we often say in boxing, you know, there's not many places where you're required to be present in the moment more than in a boxing ring when someone's trying to hit you. So you can't really let your mind wander into worrying about the future or fretting about the past. But also learning is another one that is sure to be good for our well-being. Obviously, learning a new skill in sport. I mean, it's, you know, whether it be as a coach, as a volunteer, as a participant, we're constantly learning and improving, which again is good for our self-esteem and our self-confidence. And also the other one of the 5 ways to well-being is about being active, which is obviously what sport is all about, and the positive hormone that releases. You know, there's a connection between our physical and our mental health. So being healthier physically has a positive impact. So there's a lot of, and that's just a handful of ways that sport can benefit. I mean, in my own experience, I did a lot of work in the last couple of years of my time with England Boxing, developing a workshop around mental health in boxing, and we've been delivering a lot of those during lockdown online, and I saw the impact that has, you know, the reaction, the response that we had to that, the difference it's made for individuals by showing them that this is an environment in which you can be open and you can talk about it. And you know, particularly where there's you know, there can be it can be quite a macho sport, and you know, can these pressures for people not wanting to admit to weakness is, again, that's a myth. You know, I won't go into all of that, but you know, these ideas that boxing is kind of quite uniquely placed to challenge those things. And you know, people can be struggling with the mental health that would never necessarily seek out counselling, would never necessarily go to the doctor. But if someone in a club, I don't say boxing because that's my sport, but you know, someone in a sports club is aware and, you know, has that safe environment where someone does feel able to talk about it, where they'll be supported, then sport can play a huge role in helping people that maybe wouldn't otherwise get help.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I know from my personal experiences, I mean, I play a lot of cricket, and for me, that at the minute, I'm really missing the sporting side of things.
Yeah.
Lockdown, obviously it's not the cricket season for me, but we'd be practicing, we'd be netting once a week, and it's for me, it's a massive thing that we keep in contact over our WhatsApp group. I certainly can see the benefits of what you're saying about, you know, the mental health aspect. It's not just your physical health that's improving in your sport. For me, it's that mental health, you know, it's that relief of going out there and it's seeing your mate, seeing your teammates, it's going out there, it's playing competitively. It's you can really see that the benefits, can't you? Obviously, when you are involved in sport, that mental health side, it's isn't it?
And the friendships you create, you know, the fact that you're achieving things together, you know, that sport offers things that, you know, not many other things in life can really. It's 100%. You know, it's just so much good, and obviously it's a very difficult time for everyone at the moment with not being able to do what they'd usually be doing.
Yeah, no, perfect. So you mentioned your involvement in Billingham Boxing Club. Now, from what I've seen, they're a really dynamic club. They're looking to target new people and new members in Billingham, aren't they? So could you just tell us a little bit about your involvement with that? Obviously, you mentioned the director, but do you have any other further involvement with the club?
Well, I when I worked for England Boxing for 11 years, and during that time, one of the things that I helped Billingham Boxing Club to get set up and got them some funding to, you know, get their equipment and whatever to help them get set up, and developed a good working relationship with Adrian, who is the head coach at the club. Well, I would say head coach. I mean, like a lot of people in sport does so much more than that. He's a real driving force between the club. It was a long-held ambition of his as a Billingham lad to establish a club there. There'd never been one there before, and obviously we're both passionate about the sport. We just got on well, and when I left my role with England Boxing, he he just got in touch and you know, wanted to chat, and ended up asking if I'd like to, you know, be involved in the club as a volunteer, which I really did. I mean, I wanted to stay involved in the sport, and like I said, I had a good connection with Adrian, and because of the fact that it's such a community-minded club, and it's about the wider difference. The sport and the club can make to all members of the community, and so yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, in a short space of time, it's only a couple of years, that you know, the amount that the club's achieved, really, and you know, on the community aspect, that we're establishing a second base over in Thornaby, who've also never had a club, so setting up a satellite club with the support of Tees Valley Sport, which we're sure will be a real success.
Absolutely.
And then there's you know, the club been very proactive in terms of sessions for disabled people, for instance, have women only sessions. In terms of the future, I mean, we've hosted a mental health workshop. What we're looking to do, we've got some funding from Comic Relief to do some work around mental and emotional health and well-being. We've got future plans to do stuff around Parkinson's and using boxing activity to help with Parkinson's, and you know, looking at ways that, you know, it's become very apparent, obviously, at the moment with kind of isolation. I mean, looking at, you know, how we can help with that, and so for, you know, potentially looking at the older population, for instance. I know Redcar, a club I've done a lot with, does some fantastic work around engaging older people in the community. So there's lots of need and lots of opportunities where the club can have a real positive impact, because it is just there's that real sense of community. It's run by good people, and of course, I haven't mentioned the fact that, you know, boxing has got some really good boxers as well. You know, for those that want to compete and achieve within the sport, you know, there's fantastic opportunities there as well, and there's a number of, you know, very talented young kids that we've got coming through as well. So yeah, it's just a brilliant club to be part of.
Awesome. Obviously, during the lockdown, has there been much support been able to be given to some of the boxers and the members from the club? Is that something you've been able to do, or is that something that you're hoping to do? Or
we've done what we can, really. I mean, obviously we have to operate within the restrictions of and boxing has been, I think, particularly hard hit, really, because I mean, so I mean, obviously being an indoor sport, there's restrictions to that. I mean, I know through my son playing football, you know, he's had a lot more opportunities to stay involved over the whole period of the year than with the boxing club. We did have obviously periods where we were able to open, but it's with limited numbers, of course. But then there's also, in terms of the nature of the training, can't do pad work, sparring, you know, fundamental things of you know, that the kids want to do it, you know what I mean? And so, you know, and they're important for preparing for competition. Obviously, it's a sport that is about managing weight. So the whole thing about what weight category they're going to be, you know, there's a lot of things where it has been quite difficult for boxing, and you know, and you know, some of the kids, you know, maybe you know, have other issues and things going on in their life, where boxing was where the clubs are kind of haven for them, really. So, I mean, you know, there's been various things on WhatsApp group being set up. There was, you know, there's been sessions. There's, you know, there were running sessions in the park when we were able to. Say we're looking at a wellbeing program at the moment with some support from Comic Relief. So the club's been fantastic, and Adrian, in terms of linking up with, you know, delivering food to people in the community, for instance. So, you know, doing what we can. But yeah, it is just frustrating that, you know, the club has been a haven for a lot of people, and it's really, you know, you just want to be helping, and yeah, it is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you hear loads of these stories coming out during lockdown of clubs that have done stuff in the community, have done stuff.
Yeah.
They've done stuff. You know, it's the community spirit. I think that's something that,
absolutely,
from my involvement with sport and physical activity, from my job and from my personal experiences, that's something that's really been a key thing for this whole experience, is how much it's kind of brought people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how much you've seen people doing good things for those that perhaps they don't even know, just they want to just do something to help somebody out. And that's amazing. Whether that be, that can do good for the individuals that are being helped. It can also, it can also help the people that are helping. If they
definitely. Busy. Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, perfect. So something that is kind of a real problem at the minute, I think you might think differently from this one, but it's the children's mental health at the minute for me is something that it's a key one. Obviously, they're not some of them aren't going to schools. It's homeschooling. It's got the sport club. So is there anything that can be done at the minute? Do you feel that can be done to help children's mental health?
I think it's really difficult for kids at the moment, and I say it as a parent as well as obviously through sport providing activities for children as well. But it's a really tough time, and I know that Minds research that they have done over this period has shown that young people are particularly affected. There's been increases in self-harm, so it is really difficult. And you have the services that so CAMS, so your child and adolescent mental health services. I know the local Mind has programs aimed at young people. I know, again, where there's sports clubs that are putting online sessions and stuff. So, but I think one of the things is it's funny. I mean, we talk a lot about within sport about getting people off the PlayStation, getting people off the Xbox. But I know with my son, I mean, I've got a 10-year-old son, and I think it's been one of the saving grace at the moment, actually. The fact that, you have PlayStation where it's, on the headphones with your mate. So he's with his mates a lot that way. And I think that's been a really positive thing for him. I think I know one of the things I'm trying to do, like, I mean, with my daughter, I mean, go for walks, and it can be hard for kids to open up. It's hard for adults, it can be even harder for kids where they can't necessarily vocalize how they're feeling, or
they probably aren't quite sure how they're feeling either. They don't quite know, do they, why they're feeling it, what they're feeling it for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit new, and they probably don't know themselves, do they? They don't know how they're feeling, so how can they talk about it?
Exactly. And as a parent and as an adult, it can be difficult because you don't know all the answers yourself necessarily. So for me, it's again trying to provide an environment where they can open up, and for me, going for walk, I mean, right, tell me how you feel doesn't tend to, but just provide. I find just going for a wander, and you can start to have conversations, and I think it's really important. I mean, aside wherever else, for schools to open as soon as possible, because I think that is we all know that's a massive thing, and but I think as well, not children are under a lot of pressure anyway these days. They're assessed a lot, and you have to look at school reports compared to when I was a kid. I mean, it's much more kind of structured and assessed and what have you, but not feeling too pressured. I mean, I've seen my son getting upset because he feels he's not doing this well enough or what, and just just do what you can. Just do what we're all struggling. It's difficult, and there has to be a balance. And you're not going to be. You might not be able to do everything you would have been able to do when you were in school or wherever. And I think you've just got to reassure and. But also, be aware of the services that are out there, Young Minds, for instance, and but no, it's a real difficult time for them. I really do feel for children, young people at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, do you feel that more should be done to get the impact of mental health out there to the public? And I mean, from the Tees Valley Sports side, is there anything that we could be doing, to get those messages put out further?
To be honest, I think that one of the things that I think COVID has done, and let's say I've delivered a lot of training through this period for England boxing around this, is one of the big things, getting people to understand what mental health is, and that we all have mental health in the same way that we all have physical health and we can all get ill if we don't look after ourselves. Exactly the same with mental health. But people tend to think, it couldn't happen to me. couldn't happen to me until it does. Now, I think one way or another, the lockdown, because when going back to 5 ways of well-being, things like connection, opportunities to learn, be active, have been so restricted, people's mental health has been impacted. Now, whether that's led to a problem with mental health or not, it's been impacted in some way. So I think people appreciate more people will appreciate the idea that our mental, we all have mental health that can be impacted, and it can, have a real negative impact on us if we're not doing what we can to proactively look at it. So I think more people are aware of that. I suppose, bugbear over recent years, I mean, I've been very, I've said at the start, I'm like that kind of an advocate and share my own experiences and obviously, whatever expertise I have in terms of being able to help others. But there's been a lot of campaigns, there's been a lot of stuff around talking, raising awareness. And I think that, that message is out. I don't think there's anyone around that hasn't heard or been aware of some level of mental health.
Yeah, completely agree.
But to me, there needs to be more action. It's one thing being able to talk, but you need to then have people listen and services to support you. And I think there needs to be a lot more place into that. And I think in terms of Tees Valley Sport and other organisations, the different things help different people. The mental health services are woefully under-resourced. Yeah. And there's going to be more and more of a need, obviously, with what's happened, and that, the impact of this is going to be felt for a long time. Yeah, so there's an opportunity for sporting organisations, say arts and creativity was very useful for me. People, again, go back to 5 ways of wellbeing. There's different things that help different people in different ways. So sport definitely has a role to play. And I think, environments where, again, creating environments where people can talk and where people recognize where someone's not quite themselves and encourage people to be able to talk and to listen and to not judge. And people are often scared to do that because they're scared of saying the wrong thing or because they're not an expert on mental health, so they shy away from talking about it.
So true.
For me, that's a big thing that needs to be, and that's what I say with the workshop I'm doing in boxing. That's one of the things we're really trying to address. And again, I think all, Mind have a really good workshop. It's something that all sports organisations can play a part in. But yeah, and and it's that kind of and also linking in with local support services. So there is that kind of joined up approach to it, so that people, if people are struggling, there is that kind of pathway into whatever help there is available locally. Because if you're waiting for counselling or whatever, there are other things that you can be doing, and we can help make people aware of that.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting because it's definitely something that I'd never really given much of a thought to until these lockdowns have hit, and I think what you're saying is so true, that we don't know the impact this is going to have on people. People say about the finance, people say about jobs, people say about all the other type of thing. But, I think you're right. I think people's mental health, something that we're not going to know that type of impact that it's had on people's lives. I don't think we'll ever fully understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, it's great that you're saying these networks out there. And what we'll do is at the end, when this podcast goes out, we'll put all these links in the show notes. People, there's the links to your Calm, to Mind. Yeah, we'll link the local networks in there for the people listening from the Tees Valley area, so people have got the people they can talk to, and if people are struggling, don't quite know where to go, we'll make that available so people can find those local links.
Yeah.
Well. So the final one for you, Matt, now is if people are struggling and they are potentially thinking they've got issues, but they don't feel comfortable talking, what would your advice be to people who perhaps don't feel comfortable in sharing?
Well, I think one of the things I'm a big believer in is that people don't want to carry a burden on their own. People don't like, obviously it sounds an obvious thing to say, but don't like to carry. Now, particularly as men, we have this idea that, you don't like to talk, we don't want to talk. But actually, through the work that I've done over the years, I don't believe that. I think it's that they don't feel able to, and people don't feel able to open up, scared of how they'll be judged, what have you. Now that's where speaking to us, whether it be the Samaritans, whether it be the Local Mind, whether it be Shout, the text service that exists, but speaking to someone, and sometimes someone that's say that's unrelated, or it can be easier for people to open up. Again, social media sometimes people can kind of get down on that, but there's some really good support groups on social media. There's some really good again, networks, communities that, again, I think they can be very important in helping people. And the other one, personally, I find very powerful, and I've done quite a bit of work as part of their campaigns, but Time to Change, very much based around sharing people's stories to reduce stigma. And it shows that, you know, people that struggle with the mental health, just like you and me, and the people with stories behind them. And one of the most powerful things when you're going through something, it can be a very lonely and isolating thing, is to see someone or hear someone and think they get it. Or, yeah, that's me. That's how I feel. And that in itself can be a massive thing, because, you know, some might be struggling, they can't articulate, they don't know what's happening to them, they wouldn't necessarily think I'm depressed. They wouldn't necessarily know. They might be just, what the hell has happened to me? I don't know who to talk to. So again, Time to Change, I think, is brilliant, because when you have that recognition, and when you see that other people have been able to, you know, what people have been able to do to overcome that, that can be very powerful. So I'm a big believer in that, which is why I've written so much and spoken about my own experiences, because those lived experiences, I think, are really, really powerful. And you know, we're a social animal, we're a social species. We want to share. We want to feel we belong. And when you're struggling with your mental health, actually you feel lonely, isolated. There's something wrong with me. I'm weird. You know, and so having a sense that you're not on your own, again, even if that's just that through virtually reading someone else's story or whatever, you know, that can be really, really powerful. And saying, find community of people that understand. Again, that's a big help. We all want to be understood and feel we belong somewhere.
I think that fear is one it's the fear and the judgment, isn't it? I think people sometimes are a little bit scared of how people might react to them, because I think people sometimes think mental health is a scary topic, which, I mean, as I say, for me, from my personal experience, it's something that I've never really given much of a thought to until, you know, the first lockdown hit, and then this year's really kind of brought it to the forefront for me that, you know, it's something that people need to talk about. But I just do feel that some people are just that a little bit, there's that fear, isn't there? It's, oh, well, I don't want to mention my mental health issue.
Yeah.
Somebody might think I've got a problem, but it's as you said previously, Matt, everybody has mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. And it can, you know, it can be up, down. Someone might have one bad episode with it and then be fine the rest of life. Other people might struggle. You know, we're all different. But one of the things, I mean, the first time, I mean, I've had 3 very bad episodes of depression. The first one, well, all of them really, but particularly the first one, I was based with Tees Valley Sport in my work. And, you know, I'm not someone that can hide how I feel, really. So it was obvious there was something wrong with me. And so but people were curious, you know, once I was kind of better, and people are curious, you know, when people know you, and like you see me, I'm kind of quite gobby and, you know, like to think I can be a laugh now and again. So, you know, and it turned me into something completely different. I couldn't do those things anymore. And so people were kind of, you know, they were kind of curious about it, and you know, and I talk about it. And I can honestly say people are scared of talking about it and the impact. And it's one of the things that stopped me going to the doctor for a long time. But actually, I can honestly say there's been nothing but good that has come from me talking about it. Now, I've done, you know, there is still stigma, you know, the same's not true for everyone, but ultimately, and I speak out in a sport like boxing, again, where there's a lot of, you know, this kind of, you know, stereotype about what people are like in boxing. But again, you know, the response once someone opens, the response is always someone will come to you and say, "I'm glad you said that because that's happened to me."
People want to hear the stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
People probably don't realise that they felt how others have felt, and they just kept quiet about it. And I think when you hear somebody talk about it, and you hear that shared experience, I think that's something that, as you said, people need that. People need to hear that other people
definitely
have gone through what they feel,
and
it's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal to feel how they may have felt.
And that's why I think Tyson Fury is a brilliant ambassador, because the fact that by saying that it could bring a 6'9" heavyweight champion of the world to his knees, it can. And this is a guy. You talk about mental toughness. He's gone over to America, to Germany, to defeat long-standing world champions. You don't do that if you're not mentally strong.
No.
There's a difference between mental strength and mental illness. It's not. And I mean, even just, a few months ago, I had a phone call from a boxing coach that I know from when I worked there, quite a high level coach. He just phoned me out of the blue, not spoken to him for a few years, and said, I really appreciate all the stuff that you post, because I've come to realize that I've been really, through this, I've really been struggling, and that's what it is. And even it's stuff that didn't kind of click at the time, but suddenly, I think it's really powerful. I didn't have that. The time I was first, I didn't know what the hell was happening. There wasn't the kind of awareness there is now. There wasn't social media like there is now. And that, I get a lot of people kind of coming to me now, and I really like that, the fact that something happens and straight away there's someone gets it again. And the more that we can be open about that, the more see just how many people do experience it at some time in their lives. And it isn't anything to be shared of. For me, life's much better. I wouldn't want to go through it again. But what I learned and what came out of it has led to my life being better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, it's been absolutely amazing to talk about this, and it's a topic that a lot of people are a bit uncomfortable talking about. A lot of people perhaps don't know how to talk about it. So the fact that I've been able to get you on and talk about your past, your experiences is just amazing. So can you just tell people listening, if they want to find out a bit more about your work, where can they find you?
So I have a website called afamiliarstranger.co.uk. I have a lot of my kind of writing on there as well, and my book Something Changed, Stumbling Through Divorce, Dating and Depression. That's kind of my experiences, and it is quite funny actually. I mean, it doesn't sound like the most fun read, but it is quite entertaining, as well as as well as the necessary bits that maybe aren't so much fun. But and I also do a kind of personal coach, and I have online courses around kind of self-development, and change.afamiliarstranger.co.uk is where there's information on that. So I've got a presence in a few different places, but they're the main ones.
Awesome. Well, again, I'll put that on the show notes, people. So if anyone wants to check out a bit of your work, they can find your website, Matt. But yeah, once again, just a massive thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
And you're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
Hopefully some people will find this really good advantage from listening.
Yeah, I hope so. And they're always welcome at Billingham Boxing Academy, and soon to be Thornaby as well. And say that, boxing's a fantastic sport, and the more people we get involved, the better.
Awesome. Right, well, great to catch up, Matt, and take care and stay safe.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Speak soon. Bye-bye. Cheers.
I really hope people enjoyed that. It was a talk that I really enjoyed having with Matt. It was quite a while ago, as I said in the intro, but it was something that I felt tied in really nice with Mental Health Awareness Week, and I hope it's kind of kick-started the week off nicely for some people. As I said in the intro, if you have got any feedback, please do share it with me. It's something that, as I said before, it's something I've never talked about on this type of channel before. I've never had that type of discussion personally. So it was great. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I really enjoyed listening back to it actually, and kind of listening again to some of Matt's points. So I hope you've enjoyed that. As I said in the intro as well, I am hoping that we will get at least one, maybe two more people to talk about mental health. I've got a couple of things lined up, and I'm hoping that they can come off. So fingers crossed next week and the week after, I'm hoping we might have something around mental health awareness again. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for watching.